Hello! In part 1 we learnt how to automate API testing with PowerShell Pester Gherkin syntax. In this episode we explore DevOps BDD with infrastructure and operations scripts using data-driven test scenarios. PS edit the feature file. Okay, so in this example, I want to deploy a machine, and I'll show you first in the Chrome browser where this is, because this isn't part of PowerShell, and this is just me finding out what I want to do. I have a new feature, and in this example, I want to create an application server. And normally I've got some other scripts and code to deploy some infrastructure. But this is my scenario. Okay, so we're going to start from here. And very similar to the previous example with the API, we are going to copy out the description into that PowerShell window. And we're going to copy out the acceptance criteria in here. And we're going to copy it into my feature file. Okay, so if you can scroll up to the description field and select that feature. Yep, select all of that text, do a copy, and we'll paste it into the PowerShell window and paste it in here. Yep, press enter, new line, excellent, and then we'll paste in the from the Chrome browser window. That's it, and we'll copy and paste that. Whoops. Paste. Cool. Fantastic. You've just written an automated test. Let's save the file. Let's just check it works. Can you hit the save button? Let's take it a little bit further. Hit the save button. Okay, and now we want to, in here, we want to invoke -Gherkin. Tab, excellent, enter. Right, you've got an executable test. Obviously you've still got question marks, it doesn't understand those steps yet, but we now have an executable specification. Now in the example, thank you. I've got to give Tish. So,
thank you.
In the case of my company, we may have these things that we call architecture specifications that describe in 30 pages of a Word document what our infrastructure should look like, with a tiny table in a Microsoft Word clarifying what memory and specification they should form. Now, if only we had it in this format, we've now got an executable specification. So can I have someone else? Who wants a T-shirt? What's your name? Ian. Ian, come on. Fantastic, thank you. Right, okay, you need to earn it first. So let's do a file save as. File save as, and we'll save this as, remove the word feature, it's going to be steps.ps1. Yep, and save. Great, and we will remove lines 1 to 3. Excellent. And we'll put that into a quotes. So yeah, end of the line, and we'll put another quote, and then the curly braces. Yep, excellent. Actually, this is good. Oh, that is. You're struggling with your demos. Right. And the last one as well. Yep. So double quotes. Yep, and double quotes at the end. Open curly braces. Excellent. Fantastic. So let's. Can you save the file? And we'll invoke Gherkin, and I think we'll do a little bit more. Excellent, so we've gone through the first step. What we now want to do is to put some code into here. Now again, I'm saying in this case given's given because I don't have a script, but this could be calling anything in here, whatever your code is. I do have an example where I do have stuff in the given statement. That's the last example with the log files. But in here it could be whatever your deployment scripts are, could be calling anything you like, anything you can invoke with through PowerShell to run your deployment script. Okay, but I then want to make sure that my machine has 4 CPU logical processors. Anyone know the PowerShell command? What would I do? Yeah, hang on, one at a time.
Sorry. WMI?
So get WMI object, yes? Sim, right, okay. Get sim instance. Instance, okay. Space.
Class name?
Yep, space. Yeah. Oh. Win32. Hey, this. Where else would you get?
Just run that line.
F8 on that line. Yeah. Hey, excellent. Nice done. Okay, cool. So so that's that. So we will pipe that to. No, we need to get the number, the processors. How many processors do we have? That's.
Put in a pipe. Oh, no, now you can do the web. Yeah. Web works.
Is it where
Yeah. I'd wrap it in brackets and do a dot in the interest of time. Wrap that whole thing in brackets. Number of logical processors. Oh, number of cores. Okay. That's excellent. Okay, and that pipe that out to should minus space. Yeah. B. Yep. 4. Excellent. Save. And if this works, you get a T-shirt. Hey! All right. Cool. Hold on. Thank you. Right. Now I'll forward on to the example that I've got, which completes the other steps, because I am aware we are coming up to 8 o'clock, and I do have another example to go. So let's come back into example 1B for the moment, and let's PS edit feature file. So same feature file is the same. That doesn't change, but I do have a steps where I'm taking this in as some parameters. Now, at the moment, I'm putting this as another regular expression. This becomes optional. So the words "the machine has" become optional, and the same with the RAM. The words "the machine has" are now optional. This is an or condition. What this means is that I can, in my feature file, I've got this executable script at the moment. Should be the same as we've done at the moment, invoke Gherkin. Okay, brilliant, but now I want to say, and it's got 16 gig of RAM, and hit save. And no, that's not right. My machine is doing it on my local machine. I've only got 8 gig of RAM, so it fails. This is executable script, executable specification. Right? Anyone can write that. Now, if we replace our 30-page architecture spec with stuff like this, I can make sure that it's compliant with what I asked for. Again, we do this red, green refactor. So I've done that for CPU processors. I've done it for 16 gig of RAM.
Or maybe here's an idea. Why don't they test?
Absolutely. Well, I wrote this. Okay. Don't tell me you're done until my test has passed. Yeah. I'm giving you this. I give you this spec and the PowerShell steps. Set it up on that machine. Do not tell me you're done until it passes. Thank you. Now I'll go and deploy my app onto that machine. Thank you very much. Okay, nice. So there are certain cases where maybe you've got other scripts, other systems, maybe you're using Chef, Puppet, other stuff. And look, you don't need any of this stuff. In some companies where you still have architecture specifications that specify all of this stuff out as a Word document, this is so much better. Right, I can now update this with the specification that I want. I want 8 gig of RAM. Brilliant. Okay, thank you very much. That's exactly what I asked for.
On that similar topic, is there a quick way to see, for instance, I hadn't seen that sim instance thing before, to query what other related commands in that group there are. That's what I'm having trouble with at the moment on a new area, finding out what's available in there.
Yeah, so in understanding, well, what this is calling out .NET, yeah, .NET classes. So this is, I guess, a little abstraction from raw PowerShell. If you know how to Google, right, that's your friend. I don't know how to do this. You see, have a look in my Google post. I had it just strapped down underneath here. Oh look, just in case I forgot. Look, it's good. I'm impressed. You guys obviously know this out of more memory. You're doing this more often than I am. And here's how I get the physical memory, and I'm rounding it off to gigabytes. Right? But yeah, Google's my friend. I'm sure he can find the answer for you too. Cool. Okay, so I did take this a little further, but I do want to show you the log scripts as well. Let me get out of that one. My next iteration of this, having built me this thing that I can now detect the memory and the CPUs, the next step is I want to now make sure that it's running the right version of the OS. And so I've got another one in here. Given the deployment script is successful, then the machine is running Windows 2012 R2. That's about 4 lines of PowerShell to test the OS version and the edition to make sure that it is the server edition. You can do it in PowerShell as well. So that's my next one, and making sure that they have given me R2 and not 2012.
Yeah. Can you do nested scenarios? So like
I haven't tried that.
like a if then if like
You'll probably have multiple scenarios rather than nested,
right,
perhaps
okay.
nested ones.
Yeah, sure.
So yeah, I've got another script where I'm deploying to the database server needs 24 gig of RAM, but my app server is fine with 16 gig of RAM.
Yeah, okay.
So maybe you have different scenarios in it. Perhaps even could be 2 different feature files, but the steps are the same.
So the idea is that you're testing very simple. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, the more specific you can make your scenarios, this is just testing the script does what the script is meant to do. Obviously, when you come to deploy it, you don't use these scripts. You'd actually run your code. I'm just testing that my deployment script, when I asked for 8 gig, it did deploy 8 gig. Cool. Okay, moving on. I have one last example. I know it's past 8 o'clock, but I have one more example where we do have these statements in the given section. I want to archive. I have a feature here. I want to make a script that will archive. Can I maximize that? Excellent. I want to archive some log files for a directory of source/data/something containing log files. I want to sort these logs by size and select the largest 500 files and compress them to a zip file saved in the destination directory. Right, I want the largest 500 because there's going to be loads of them, and I'm less interested in the server logs that occurred at 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock in the morning when no one's online. I want to know, I want to keep these logs for all of the transactions during the business hours. This is just an example. We had a very similar, not for logger files, but I did have a real business example where I need to do something almost exactly like this. And we needed to create a script, and I wanted to test it was doing what we expected it to do. That's the feature. Acceptance criteria. Given the source directory contains 510 files, when I run my archive script, whatever that is, the archive will contain 500 files. Because on my feature, I want a maximum of 500 files per day. Okay, cool. This could be PowerShell. It could be a Python script that someone else wrote. Right? I'd rather do it in PowerShell. Right? It's one line of code. But I want to make sure that this script, whatever it is, does what it should be doing. CD into the logs. Let's go and have a look at my first example. Let's have a look at PS edit, the feature file. So that's copied out as it was before. There's my feature and the scenario that I'm trying to test. Okay, so I am using a test drive. In Pester, test drive is a temporary directory. It's under your user roaming, user app data, roaming temp, some. Okay, it mixes it up, runs your tests, and at the end of your test, it deletes it all. So test drive is a temporary working space so you can create loads of files, in my case, do whatever I want to make sure my script is working, and at the end of this test, they're automatically deleted. And then I can do another test and it will run again in a separate temporary directory, and my tests are completely isolated and won't clash, and I get bogus results because the files were there from the previous test execution. Make sense? Test drive, it's a PowerShell Pester variable environment. It will create that directory on the fly. Okay. So I'm using a command here, line number 21, which is going off the side of the screen. I am creating some test data. So I'm creating in here, new item, I'm creating some directories, and then this line here is creating a number of files. For however many files I want, I'm going to loop through and create some temporary files. What that looks like is, and I know I'm doing this in a GUI, and don't hate me, but what this looks like is a folder like this with a date on it, and we end up with all of these files with kind of randomized names. Some of the smaller files just say PowerShell is awesome, and some of the bigger files will say that quite a lot. So this is just me creating some random files of a random file size, right? Just to make sure my script is kind of doing what it should be doing. But rather than use this stuff, which is my real live log files, and I don't want to keep on playing about with real live log files, I am going to use PowerShell to just create some temporary files, and they're going to contain the words PowerShell is awesome a random number of times. Make sense? Cool, fantastic. Okay, when I run archive log.ps1, and that could be anything, as I say, I'd rather it was PowerShell, as I can do that in one line. Maybe that's a Python script, and we'll just move on to testing that it contains the files that I wanted. So this again is a regular expression. Max files, I'm going to pick up as a parameter. That's the files that I'm expecting it to be. /d is a numeric digit, 0 to 9, and I want, that could be, plus means 1 or more, so 1 or more digits. So I'm looking for a number, numerical digits. Okay, so when I run this, it's going to use in here the .NET class. Again, Google's your friend. Yeah, don't understand any of this stuff, neither did I, but Google, you find out tons of stuff from Google. I'm going to count the number of entries in that file, and then I'm going to dispose of that lock in case this throws an exception and I don't leave behind a locked file. Okay, so I'm now testing that it's the max files that I asked for. Okay, the number. Okay, does this make sense? Hands up if it makes sense. In fact, that's enough of you. Thank you. So invoke Gherkin. Okay, so it says creating 510 files. Actually, what I'll do is I see if I can. It'll run. There we go. Now it's zipping it up. Okay, hooray! Cool, fantastic. I'm going to put a breakpoint in here and just show you that it did do. Do you believe me? Enough. Move on. No, let's move on. Okay. That is now an executable spec, and what that means is that I can now do some other very interesting tests to make sure that this script does what I should do. Any testers in the room? Anyone do testing? Testing, excellent. What other things might you do if you were a tester to make sure that that script does what it should be doing? Are there any other scenarios that you can think of?
There is one that I'm curious of. What if your test needs some precondition, like say it needs to be authenticated before you can start testing?
Yeah, sure.
Cool, happy. These are some other scenarios then. As a tester, I want to test a boundary value. This is where you're pairing up with a tester, someone in QA. Their job is to think of all these really stupid things that will break your code. Yep. You want them to write this stuff first to make your code break, and then you write just enough code to make it pass. Done. So I'm testing the exact condition here. It is greater than or equal to. And that's often something that catches out developers. We can do it in our ops scripts as well. Right? I know a reason I put this one in is because maybe the person who wrote the archive log code is looping through and counting up 500 files. If I don't have 500 files, then I just crash and die, right? So I do want to make sure that if there's less than 500 files, I do get less than 500 files. Yeah. Cool.
There's no reason why the destination file couldn't be a Azure blob or page file.
Hey, if that was, then maybe you've got some other tests to make sure it works when it's local directory, or maybe you want to do another test when it's hosted in Azure. This can be end-to-end tests. Yeah. There is one, I won't execute the next example, but I will show you the code and then I'll stop because it is getting late and I know we want to go home. And let's go and have a look at, not that, let's do a PS edit for that. PS edit. What I've done in this next example is I've now given a data. So, given the source directory contains these files. It's a bit more interesting. When I run that script, then the archive contains exactly these ones. So what I'm going to do is I've decided to add in another parameter. I don't want to keep making 500 files. So I parameterize my code, and the developer has to parameterize the script. So I can actually run some smaller tests just on 5 files, right? And not 500 anymore, but I can pass it in as a parameter. If I've got all of those files, and I say, give me the 5 largest, I want these ones to come back, right? The code behind that is a little bit more. Here we go. So it contains the following files, and there's a table of data, right? We can recognize that table. And then I'm creating that as the name, the row, that's the name of the file. And the size, I'm just going to make it say, where's the rest of that line gone? 1. So I'm making it 1 and the row.size. So if the size is 1, the content of the file is the number 1. If the size is 2, the content of the file is the number 11. Yeah. If it's 3, it's 111. Okay, so I can then create these dummy files ranging from 1 byte to maybe 8 bytes. And then I can test that when I call my, I want max file of 5, then I get exactly the files that I'm expecting in here. So again, I'm passing in a table, and I'm expecting to get exactly that log file in the expanded zip file. Now these samples are on GitHub, and you can have a look and play about with this, but it does mean that we can create human-readable specifications for our scripts, whatever scripting we're doing with PowerShell. In fact, some of it doesn't even have to be PowerShell. This archive script could be anything you like. I'm using PowerShell, and I'm going to call it out as PowerShell. My use case was a lot more complicated than this because it also had to do some timestamp matching between 11 o'clock day before and 11 o'clock today, when the actual files in the system were stored by Unix timestamp. Well, that's actually still one on a PowerShell, but I needed to add in some other scenarios here to cater for that. T-shirts for some interesting questions. Any questions?
What about natural language processing for the test specifications? So you've got regular expressions. What about having natural language processing so the person who's writing the test spec doesn't even need to know regular expression?
This is the Gherkin syntax, is this feature file. Yeah, we are writing PowerShell code for the steps, but maybe that does need someone who has to have some level of PowerShell experience. I'm teaching my manual tester how to do that at the moment, and PowerShell itself is mostly human readable. Chef and Puppet do it in Ruby, but any other?
I guess the
Yes.
answer to that would be both sides need to know what the other side is going to write. So the testers need to know what the PowerShell guys are going to expect, and the PowerShell guys that write the actual steps need to know what the testers are going to write. It all comes back down to your regular expressions.
I've got one more T-shirt. No, sorry, you have a question.
The question was, have you written a PowerShell script to do find duplicates in a like large number of files, like some kind of, because when we
That'll be yeah.
all
I'd like that.
different drives.
I like that idea. You could do that. I've not done that. But you could create a test to find. Do you mean duplicate file names or duplicate content? Yeah, you could write a test, create some test data, and then ask your developer to create a script to find those duplicate files. And you could use this Pester Gherkin tool framework to make sure that it does find the duplicates. Yeah.
And how efficient will it be? Because sometimes 100,000 files. Like
Right. So you write your test like I did. You would maybe work with your developer and say, if I give you 10 files, 2 of them are duplicates. I'm going to get it to create random IDs, random GUIDs, random file names, but I want you to tell me which of the 2 files have the same duplicates. Only just on 10 files, because if it works on 10, it's going to work on 1,000, 10,000. Yeah, it may obviously may be a few seconds longer, but you'd write your test and you'd write the script to create some mocks or create some test data just on a smaller smaller file set. So you don't have to wait 3 seconds for your tests to run. But having written them once, you can get those into your automation, put them into Git, and they'll run every single time someone touches that script. You want to make sure that it always works and they haven't broken something else.
With these test cases, do you encourage your teams or test teams to save them somewhere safe to make them repeatable and also maintainable?
Yeah, where should they put them?
In cloud.
Wherever the developer puts his source code,
Okay.
same place.
Same
Wherever
place.
the ops people put their scripts for creating environments, same place.
Okay.
Keep
So
them with your
is it
code.
going to be replace the unit test projects, say in the Visual Studio
No.
context?
No. So these are behavior-driven tests, acceptance tests, mostly focused from the business or the end user perspective, using or consuming your script, using or consuming your infrastructure or your API. These are end-to-end tests. These should be supplemented by unit tests, integration tests, component tests, much lower level down. These are, we're looking at the, as a user, I want this thing so that I get some value, given, when, then. These are the end user kinds of tests, but we can automate them as well fairly easily. Your low level code that the methods do, what they should be doing, you should be supplementing that with other unit tests.
Unit tests should still go.
Yeah.
Go together with.
Different levels for testing, different layers of your system.
Okay.
Cool.
Thank you.
Great. I think it's time to wrap. So, hey, I'm happy to take questions afterwards, but I know it's getting late. So thank you, everyone, and I hope you found that fun.
All right, thanks everybody. Thank you very much. Grab some pizza if there's still pizza left. I really do not want to throw anything away. Thank you.
No worries.
That was really good.
That's really awesome.
Thank
Really
you.
appreciate that.
No worries.
So, it does tables. I'm really happy. Great presentation.
Does thank you. Cool. Thank you.